and welcome back to Resident Evil Revisited. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, joined with a plethora of hosts, one being sat next to me, the one and only Hayley. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
Welcome back to the show. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I've travelled a long way to be here today.
I can tell.
It's a very long journey.
I got the receipt come through with the expenses
Travel
as well.
expenses,
It was ridiculous.
yep.
I was
Yep.
just like, wow, okay. Clearly, you're the best in the business. I'm happy you're here.
What can I say?
Thank you.
I'm surprised we got her, honestly.
That's very true. That man's voice that you are hearing is the one and only Shotgunmcpayne. How are you?
How's it going, everybody? Let's jump into this fun game.
We can.
But first,
let's introduce our other guest, the one and only man like Despawn. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm surprised we got Shotgun back as well, just because of how bad
Budget.
we did last time. No,
Budget, mate. Budget. You know, budget. He was.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was
listen.
within the budget. We was okay.
yeah,
we gotta keep in with that B movie theme, okay? We gotta keep the theming going, you know.
we've got
I
the one
agree.
star in Haley, and then the rest of us are B star. Yeah, I get it.
How is
Exactly,
Hayley the ones? The what? That's crazy.
You
How are you?
started.
The
Did you
star?
listen?
Don't know.
Listen, did you listen to her reading? She's a star.
yeah,
She's gonna
good
be.
point.
She's gonna be
Wow.
Good point.
going to the. She's going to the moon.
She's going
you
to
know?
the moon. She's going to the moon. If you don't know what Resident Evil Revisited is our new podcast mini-series that we are doing, leading all the way up to Resident Evil 8, that is coming out on May 7th. So what we are doing is we are playing every single Resident Evil numbered game and Code Veronica, because that is supposed to be a numbered game, in order. We started with Resident Evil 0, so if you haven't seen that episode, please go and check it out on this very same channel. You may be new to the channel and you've come in because it's Resident Evil reviewing and people talking about it. Stick around, hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and buckle in. First episode went really well. I'm very happy. The response was very well. Lots of engagement, what we asked for last time. Again, same thing again. If you are watching this, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you leave a like. It helps us know that we are doing the right things. So I do appreciate it. So thank you all so much. Let's just kick off with some initial thoughts then, really. Resident Evil 1, the OG Resident Evil game, we are not doing. We are literally doing the remake of that, which was really hard for me, actually. Because when I think Resident Evil, I actually always think OG2, OG1, OG3. So now playing this through and this being the order in which we play in, for me was very like, oh yeah, a lot of stuff that happens in OG, like in the OG games, it's just not here, and there's new stuff added.
I missed the original.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we'll start with you. Like, what's your like opinion on this of Resident Evil remake, which came out in 2002, I believe.
I like the remake. I feel like I've got so used to us playing through original and then the remake that
Yeah.
I almost see the remake as like Resident Evil 1.5 or something like
Got
that.
ya.
Like it's like
So
the
you can't call
the
it
midway.
1.5 because there is actually a 1.5.
Oh, well,
See,
there you
that's the
go.
problem.
No, but you know what I'm
I
saying.
noticed that,
It
yeah.
does feel like a very different game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I missed playing through the original, so we may have to do that some other time.
I'm
the
sure in
future.
our own time we can. Nick, what about you? What's your history with Resident Evil 1, and what did you think of the game?
So the original Resident Evil 1, I've played not a whole lot of. I feel like the other way around, where I'm like, this improves so many ways from the original formula. It makes me, I tank controls have never really been my favorite, and I know that that's a sentiment usually around, that like the community that came out of like 4 and 5 and all that. But man, I still have like kind of like a nostalgia for it at this point now, like where like it's a different aspect. I look at it as more of a different aspect of Resident Evil 2 look, because I don't remember who I was talking to, but somebody was talking about, would you want them to go back and remake RE1 for third person? I'm like, as much as I love RE2 and RE3,
don't jump ahead. That's
you know?
final question talk. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love the stuff they add. I mean, the Lisa Trevor stuff is like so good, so heartbreaking every time. And I love this game. This game's real good.
Despawn, what about yourself? History and what do you think of this game on a top level?
Top level, I enjoyed it. Again, it's not one that I'd played in full before, so
Okay.
I completely skipped when the remake came out. I played the original, but it's been so long since I've played it, I don't really remember much of it. I do know, obviously, there was a lot of added stuff with this version. It looks a lot better, handles a lot better, I feel. And yeah, coming out of Zero as well, it was nice seeing all of the things that Zero was harkening back to, but
Yeah.
like expanded and just that like more grandiose version of that. But with a bit more of the obviously the survival horror aspect. There's some additions to the game that weren't in the original that I think kind of helped with that suspense, which we'll get into I think in a bit. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time with it. And yeah, I'm interested to see how it stacks up to the
So
upcoming games that we're going to.
Yeah, last time we all decided what difficulty did everyone play on, because this doesn't really do like the easy, normal, and hard. This does the mountain climbing and like do like a light breeze through the park type thing. What difficulty did you play on, Nick? Starting with you.
I played on easy just because I haven't gone through this as much as like the originals.
Got ya.
Or not the originals, but the other ones that I've played. So this one actually didn't have it be super easy like Resident Evil 0 was. So I felt like Resident Evil 0 is like, yo, you are just wanting the story, whereas this is like, yo, you're gonna actually play the game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you're gonna actually get the experience, you know. So
What about you, Despawn?
Same. So I did it on easy mode. Obviously, A for time constraints, and B just to kind of like enjoy the story. And with this one having a proper like 2-person like kind of arc to it, I wanted to get
Yes.
through both sides of the story.
Okay.
So yeah, which I
Ooh.
finished as of recording 35 minutes ago.
Ah.
I finished the second
Wow.
story. So yeah,
Nice.
so I
Slow
really
start.
wanted to push through.
So
Yeah,
that's
but
actually
go.
where I wanted to start before we get into plot and all that stuff, which is Resident Evil 1 story is a lot better than Resident Evil Zero's in my opinion. But I agree with Nick where or it's maybe this one who said it, sorry. Where it was nice playing Zero and reading all the notes and going through this game and coming straight away into this one. And going, oh, this pays off, and this pays off, and this pays off, and this pays off. And even with, obviously, the remake of this, and it's all in the same art style, and it just feels a very natural expansion. Which, now looking back on Resident Evil 0, I'm like, oh, they actually did a better job than maybe I give it credit for, in terms of the whole game. I still don't think the game's amazing. And again, watch the other episodes for a full rundown on that. But I do think there are a few things in this one where it's like, okay, they talk about the animals again, and you see more animals in this game. And they talk about, obviously, Wesker's in this one. All of the things that are meant to be explained get explained in this game. Which is, it's nice that, I don't think there's anything from Zero that happens that I can think of off the top of my head where I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And yeah, like there's probably a few little bits
Other
and
than
bobs,
just no ever mention of Billy Cohen ever again.
but even
that makes sense.
I was gonna,
Yeah,
even
it
that
does.
in this game
broad,
and through
yeah.
through the broader experience, you're not spending time with Rebecca like that, especially in
Yeah.
Jill's playthrough. Who did you
Yeah.
play through first, everybody?
I went for Jill first, and then Chris.
Oh, it's always Jill first. This is a Jill game to me.
So that's really interesting because I would have 100% agreed with you. To me, Resident Evil 1 is a Jill game, but this game
Looking
isn't
back
that.
through it, yeah.
It's if you watch Chris, if you didn't play Chris and you watch all Chris's cutscenes, Chris's story makes so much more sense in this game, and from coming off of Zero compared to Jill's, where like if you play as Chris, you never see Barry through the whole game.
Yep.
And
He's
And if you play as
implied to
Jill,
be
you never
dead.
see Rebecca.
yeah. Yeah, and you're right, Nick. He's implied to be dead in this game, which obviously, if you play any of the other games, you kind of know.
Makes sense.
You know, yeah. But it was really interesting for me. Like, Despawn, kind of want to dive in with you, really, where like,
Right.
is this game what you expected it to be? Because this is one of the best Resident Evil games. It is held to that regard. One of the best survival horror games. If you put on a list the top 10, top 5 survival horror games, I expect this to make it in there. Does it make it in there for you? Was it that good, or how did you feel with it all?
Yeah, I think it does. I think again, like I said earlier, like the survival elements that weren't really in Zero are definitely there in One.
Yeah.
They do some really clever things with bodies and things like that, and doors that should be locked that sometimes just break open for no reason, just to scare you. And they have those elements in there that are like always leave you thinking, is the next corner going to be the corner that something jumps out at me?
Yep.
Which Zero didn't have, and I think they did it really well in this one. I think the sound in the game works perfectly as well. So there's elements when you're outside and you can hear dogs out and, like in the background,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden one will just come bounding around the corner at you, and it's like, okay, those like little elements that keep you on edge as you're playing, and I think they did it really well for a game that's now 19 years old. I think it still holds up.
Well, how many times have you played this game?
This is probably one of my least amount played.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, this is because the thing with Resident Evil 1 again, because I always run if I play I'm gonna play OG because I love playing OG 2, and it's so jarring to play this and then play OG 2. It just doesn't work. So yeah, this is one of my least played. It's one of my I like this game a lot. Like, I like this game a lot. If someone says to me, oh, should you... The question I usually get asked is, oh, should you play this game? And usually people are apprehensive about playing it because of the tank controls. I don't think the tank controls are bad in this game at all. And it makes perfect sense for the way the camera is set up throughout the entire game. Like, I understand that we want a remake for this game so it can fit with 2 and 3 and 4 and everything else they're going to do in terms of retconning the story and stuff like that. But this game stands the test of time, like you just said. This game is not young. This is an old game. I'm playing it on my Xbox Series X. It's never looked better. It runs smooth. It doesn't look dated. The only thing I think you pointed out in terms of its character models were a little bit deadbeat behind the eyes.
Yeah.
In some cutscenes, you can just very much tell it's a game of that time and they haven't quite mastered eyes yet. But I love the game. What was you driving towards for the question, though?
You were still getting jump scared.
Yes.
With certain things.
Oh, 100%.
So you've played this game so many times, you kind of know where you're going and what to expect, and yet there were still moments where you were just taken off guard.
Yeah, no, there was a moment. It was just like you say. I think that's
was it a spider?
a spider got me once because I was expecting to be spawned on the roof, and he was. It was right in front of me. Oh shit! I'm like, oh god, yeah. But yeah, I love it.
I'm gonna say, just to interrupt, there's a bit that they did, which I think they also used that kind of fear to kind of circumvent itself a little bit. So for anyone who's played Resident Evil 1, there's obviously the iconic bit where the dogs jump through the windows.
Yes.
If you're playing as Chris, that doesn't happen.
No.
But the window does crack. There is a moment where you walk past it and it cracks. You're like, oh, are they going to jump through? And it's like, and then they don't. And it's like, it does that circumvention of like, it plays with the idea that you know what's going to happen, but sometimes it doesn't. And it's like that thing that puts you on edge again. I think, again, did it so perfectly just to keep that kind of like fear level ramped up that little bit extra, when it could have just been a classic arcade, like run around shooter kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to sign off,
Yeah, I think that it lends itself to replayability that way too. Like not even just from OG to remake, but just within the remake, where you can play Chris, and Jill's story, and like still play them a second time and be totally like you might have a totally different experience just in terms of enemy placement or like just and it's just minor things. It's not like things. Yeah, it's not like procedurally generated where it's like, oh, this person could be over here or here. It's just that little bit. And I think that's why while I think the tank controls are a little bit jarring for like a modern, if someone were coming into the series, like I don't necessarily recommend this just because I feel like for a modern gamer, what that kind of person expects, it's like tank controls can be jarring to certain people, and to get the hook in, I might recommend a different game that we might talk about later. But I think that the tank controls here, like while I got annoyed by them at certain times, they just add to the overall atmosphere so well.
Yeah, it's what I miss from Resident Evil in general. Like I know they do a good job with it in games going forward, which we'll get to in some of them, but I do just miss being scared of what's around the corner, and that's something that none of the modern games have ever done to me. And don't get me wrong, I understand. I'm also I'm an adult now. I think the same things are not going to scare me the way they used to. Things that scare me now is more like atmosphere and rooms and like sound and
mortgages
and yeah, of course,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. So the one thing that does actually annoy me about this game is they don't. It's something that I didn't notice until kind of playing it through the way we are today and breaking it down and things like that, which is they did the 2 stories, yes, and they are 2 different stories, but they're not. It's the biggest problem that Resident Evil has, and it upsets me again because I'm such a huge Resident Evil fan. But now looking at it from a different lens, not just a fanboy lens of like, I love these games. These games are amazing. Survival horror is the best genre of gaming. Like just coming back a little bit and going, man, they really could have done a better job of making a Chris story and making a Jill story, and then having different bosses for different of like it. So one of you fight this, the the Tyrant, sorry, and one of you fight maybe Wesker at the end or something like that. It would have made more sense in terms of its story. And to think if you play Jill's story and never play Chris's story, half the stuff in this game you never see. And there's a lot of people that do that. They play through one playthrough and that is it. That was their definitive Resident Evil experience in this game. And I'm like, wow, you don't even know about Rebecca. You don't know even the dialogue changes with certain characters. Certain things happen. So yeah, it's really interesting. I agree with you on the replayability for this game, but it upsets me story-wise that they didn't go far enough in this one.
I also think terms of their integration with each other as well, right? So if you're playing as Jill, you only ever see Chris at the end of the game.
Yes.
If you choose to save him,
Yeah.
you can go the whole game without ever seeing Chris at all. Like I just feel like they could have done a little bit better with certain cutscenes or make you have to cross paths with each other at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, nothing. What was you gonna say, Nick?
Yeah, I think that it kind of goes to what you were saying before, where everyone has the canonical ending of a Resident Evil game or the canonical story, and I think like it would be so much better served if they both were the canonical story. They just were the separate stories that are happening in tandem, which we may or may not see later. The one thing that bothers me, like starting Chris's playthrough, it's just like Jill's right there and Barry's nowhere to be found, and it's like I wish that they had Chris there and then Barry came in later, and then maybe it only be in Jill's story, but then have him also like it's happening at the same time.
Exactly.
You know,
it's so hard to get behind. Now thinking about it's like well, they didn't both fight Wesker, they didn't both fight Tyrant at the end, they didn't both. It's like which one of these stories is the story? And I get why what they did with some of the newer games as well, like why they went to just one character, or even with what they do in the really new games in terms of 6, and where they have like literally loads of different stories that are interwoven. I see what they were going for, but with here it's so disappointing in terms of like you want more, and the only time you get I'm gonna kill that motorbike, I tell you. The only time you really get them two together is at the prison, and that's it. And it is really frustrating from a Resident Evil fan's point of view. I'm shutting my window so someone else talk.
No, I'm gonna say like for me it's very much a case of like it's the same story just with different lines, and it does take you out of it a little bit, especially as you say, because with subsequent stories we have a more kind of like it is gelled together a lot better, where this feels like it is kind of like it's 2 sides of the same story rather than being 2 sides of like the same story, as it were. So and it's just it is like you say, it does take you out of it a little bit when there are points where characters should cross and they don't. You just kind of play the same story both times. And I don't know if it was kind of maybe, again, as we said with Zero, like maybe it's they were like pushed for budget or pushed for resources to write a second story and animate it and all that stuff, or this just was their choice. But I think it was a missed opportunity to actually write a more cohesive story.
I think
between the
that's
two characters.
why a lot of Resident Evil fans, or at least I'll speak for myself, which is why we want this game remade, because there is so much potential to be, especially in this remake, to remake this remake, but fix the story elements, give Jill a little bit. Jill's story in this whole game is so bland and boring throughout the whole thing, which is, who's Jill? Jill's in Stars. She's a woman officer in Stars. That's all we know about Jill. It's she's on this. I understand, but even with Chris, you're like, all right, well, Chris is this person. He meets Rebecca. Like, Jill meets Barry for like 2 seconds, and then he disappears again, and then he's back again, and he disappears again. She's always the damsel in distress. It feels like she always needs saving, and it's very, very Resident Evil, and it's very annoying now sitting here playing it in 2021. It's something you definitely pick up on more and more, right?
Yeah. I was thinking, watching you play through Resident Evil 1 again, I wonder if, you know, the way that Jill and Chris's stories are so disjointed had an impact on how they made Billy and Rebecca the zapping system in Zero. So instead of them having separate stories, they were trying to interweave those two characters into the same story. I wonder if this kind of heavily influenced what they did with Zero.
See, I'd love a zapping system in this. And they're together through the whole story.
Yeah. So you still do different things that you can maneuver between them.
Well, and then it takes away the whole question we're having, which is like, oh, they went through the same things. Like, no, if they actually went through the same things, but your Jill was a little bit less, she only had a pistol, so she wasn't well versed with a shotgun or a magnum or whatever else. It's just there's those little things that let this game down. It's still, in my opinion, a remarkable game. It still has a fantastic story, which does enough to keep you wanting more, I think, is that what this does. I don't think it does enough to really build out the entire Resident Evil world and Umbrella and stuff, but it's enough to just be like, there's another one coming, just stick with us, and there's another one, and there's another one, and yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that we never get the full Resident Evil 1 experience, I feel like.
Well, and I kind of think that the other thing is, like, I like, because some of these other ones get way too far out in the weeds. Like, we're trying to tell all the story at once, especially as we get, a little bit further.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that this is this story, but you can see elements of the next thing happening.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is a contained story. If you just played Resident Evil 1, you're done. Like that you can be done and fine,
Yeah.
I think, like, if you take certain elements from 0 and certain elements from 1, you have a near perfect experience.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, there's things like we talked about with 0 where it's, I think that the lack of an item box is a huge hindrance for me, and but like here, like the lack of not being able to leave items is a huge hindrance, but also the zapping system. Like, I feel like that's such a great way to tell it, but still have it be one singular story.
Yeah. If this is how you're going to choose to do it, if you want to give me two separate stories that are interwoven, I would prefer that over the zapping system. But it needs to be either the zapping system in this game, where it's one story, or two separate stories that are interwoven together. Definitely, which is definitely what the later games try to do, and maybe they found, maybe they don't. Who knows? Before I move into plot, has anyone got anything else to add?
No.
No. Cool. Plot of this game is on July 24th, 1988. 98, sorry, thank you very much. A series of bizarre murders occur on the outskirts of the Midwestern town of Raccoon City. The Raccoon City Police Department's Special Tactics and Rescue Service, STARS, are assigned to investigate. After contact with Bravo Team is lost, Alpha Team is sent in to investigate their disappearance. Alpha Team locates Bravo Team's crashed helicopter and lands at the site, where they are attacked by a pack of monstrous dogs, killing one of the team. After Alpha Team's helicopter pilot, Brad Vickers, panics and takes off alone, the remaining members, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wesker, and Barry Burton, seek refuge in an abandoned warehouse where they split up. Number one problem with this game. Brad is meant to be part of STARS, Special Tactics and Rescue, and he panics because a pack of dogs, he doesn't know they're zombie dogs.
Nope.
Pack of dogs come out and run them into him. So he panics. What's that about?
Monstrous dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, they weren't nice dogs.
I
They were
understand.
monstrous.
I understand that, but
Maybe he's allergic.
he's allergic to dogs. Okay, got you.
That's it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And think about like how long do we think like this span of time is? Because that means he's either like flying, or I don't know what
flying
the
the whole
implication
time.
is. But he's like, yeah, like he's flying around the whole time. Motherfucker's got to be losing some fuel. You know
Well, that's
what I
what
mean?
happens at the end. That's what he says on the radio, right? He's like, I've only got so.
I missed that.
We're gonna get there, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can spoil it.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's like, I've only got so much. I'm pretty sure he says like, I've only got so much fuel. Just give me a sign. Like, give me a sign that
Yeah.
you're out there. And obviously, that's when the big ending is. But yeah, I used to love the OG opening. Is fantastic because it's live
yeah.
action and it's super campy and. It's so dumb but so good. Where this one is, I don't love it as they try to keep. Again, it's that weird thing where you're doing a remake, so you need to try and keep it as true to the original as possible, but also make it different. And I'm just like, come on, like you could have. It needed to go a little bit further. Like I don't know, something else needed to happen for me. Where it just frustrates me every time now. The playable characters Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield finds several members of Bravo team, including Kenneth J. What did we say this
Sullivan.
was? Sullivan. Oh,
Sullivan,
it's
yeah.
there's a weird full stop there. So it's Kenneth J. Sullivan being eaten
yeah.
by. I didn't write this Wikipedia. Being eaten by a zombie. Richard Akin, who is either killed by a giant venomous snake or eaten by a shark. So what did you guys get for Richard?
Oh,
I got. Well, it depends on I think the playthrough you do. I
Yeah.
got both.
So okay, so yeah.
oh, okay.
So if you do
Yeah.
Chris, you get eaten by a shark, and if you do Jill,
Well, doesn't he just disappear at some point?
well, no, that's the point. No, he gets killed either way.
Yeah.
So
Doomed to die,
I've got a
basically,
couple of
poor
questions
Richard.
for this part because again, this plot's a little bit different to the last one. It's not as in depth. So, did you get bit by the snake? So you had to go get your own venom?
Serum.
Yes.
Serum. No, Nick, you didn't.
Nope. I ran.
wow.
I ran around that room real skillfully. I don't know how I did it.
Did you fight the snake?
I came real close. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You did actually fight the snake, because
Yeah.
so I got the part where it's you give Richard his serum, he's relaxing, then you go back in the room, fought the snake. Richard comes in, gives up his life
Sacrifices
for
himself.
us. Shout out to him.
And
He
you
jumps
leave.
in front of the snake for me. We live, and I grab the mask and then leave. But yeah, it was so frustrating because I come out of that fight and she's all like, "Oh, I need serum." I'm like, "Oh, why'd I get bit for? God damn it! You just added to my time. Like, come on." So the same thing happened to you, Despawn. You got bit by it.
Yeah, I got bit.
See, so
I
did you
don't
even
think-
know
actually,
that there
no.
was? Did you even know there was a way to not get the serum stuff?
No, I didn't have a clue. So
Yeah.
I just thought it was part of the thing. I completely, because I did the same fight as Chris as well, but I avoided him. So I just ran in, grabbed the master and legged it again at that point.
So that
on my
means you
second
didn't
run.
get the cutscene with Rebecca in the syrup room.
Nope.
Yeah, see, those are those
There is-
little things that I like about this game.
She
which
does that
is
several times. though,
she does it a
doesn't
couple
as
of times,
as
yeah.
Chris?
But these are the little things I like about the game, which is it adapts to how you progress through it, which I think is very smart and very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Which is, imagine you're a kid in the park, while you're a kid playing Resident Evil, who knows? But you're having that conversation, that water cooler conversation, like, "Oh, did this happen to you? No, that didn't happen to me. What are you talking about?" Like, you don't necessarily expect that in a survival horror game. Like,
Well,
that, go on there.
thinking about it in that time period too, like we weren't having those conversations like very much.
No.
You know, so like this was such an outlier where it was like, "Oh, did you get this? No, I got this, but this
Yeah.
happened and that happened." You know, like that is such ahead of its time in that way.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
did want to say one thing, just because it made me laugh. When you do go back to the room where the serum is and Rebecca's there and she can heal you,
Yeah.
one of the worst animations for a healing mechanic I've ever seen.
She grabs his arm, right?
She just grabs your arm and goes, "Yep, you're fine again."
Feeling those biceps.
Yeah.
She's
what
like,
she's doing.
she's
She's like,
feeling them
"Ooh."
going, these are going to punch boulders soon. I'm ready. I'm ready. Like, yeah,
that one
agree
thing I
with
would
you.
say as well is because I did Jill's first. I unlocked the costumes.
Ah, okay.
So I played through the second time round as Chris's Resident Evil 5 character.
Yeah,
model.
oh, that must be so weird.
And he is hench.
He's a beefy
Oh,
boy.
wow.
Chris has
He's been working
hitting
out
the
since Resident Evil 1.
steroids, let me tell you, he's been hitting them steroids. Yeah, there are good things about this game, and the things that I love about this game, and those are the little ones that I really do love. Is when the game, it takes the story into its own hands. It feels like, and it's like, well, you got bit, so you're poison now, and if you would have done it better, you wouldn't have to do this. But sucks to be you, mate. So yeah, I thought that was cool. Bravo Team Survivor, Rebecca Chain. Oh, sorry, you're right. I skipped. Appreciate it. Forrest Spencer. Is it Spencer? Speyer. Is he not in Resident Evil 0?
His name was on the character sheet that you gave
His
us
name was
last
on the
week, but I
character
never
sheet,
saw
but I'm
him.
like,
I don't remember seeing him.
yeah.
He's look. I didn't make the character sheet. It
He's-
wasn't
No,
me
no,
that
no,
I mean,
made
I
it.
saw it last time.
He's
and I
not.
was like, what?
He's not like really here
No.
though either.
So I think what they're trying to do, I guess they're alluding to, he was part of Bravo Team,
I was gonna say that.
escapes, and then makes his way to, because that's
To
what
the
that's what
mansion and
that's what
dies.
happens in the Chris cutscene.
Yeah.
Is like, it's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, I can't believe this happened to you. Which is like, okay, so you're part of Bravo Team. You made it to the mansion to get away from all of this, and
Maybe
ended up
he's
dying
mentioned
anyway.
in a file somewhere or something. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't remember. I generally don't remember. So what happens to him is he's found dead, and you can find him. He's holding the what guns?
Grenade launcher
Grenade launcher for Jill.
for Jill.
I can't remember what he
Yeah.
holds for Chris. Is it grenade launcher as well?
Nothing.
It's nothing for
No.
Chris.
Yeah, you don't get the
Oh.
grenade launchers, Chris.
Gotcha, yeah. I thought because Jill's meant to be like the easy version of this game. Because obviously, if you play as Chris, you don't start off with a gun. You only have a knife.
Yep.
Which, how was that for you, Despawn?
Super easy. Like you
Okay.
literally just turn around and you find one.
Yeah. You can,
So the way it works is when you find the first zombie attacking, what was his name? Kenneth?
yeah.
Yeah.
Kenneth,
just
dead.
scrolling back
Kenneth,
through the
he's
list here.
chewing on Kenneth. Isn't
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kenneth, when there's a zombie eating Kenneth, obviously as Jill you would just shoot the zombie. With this one, if you run back to the main hall, there's a gun on the floor.
So I don't know if either of you guys did this. Nick clearly did then. Which is you can get an extra cutscene actually for that whole moment, which is when you play as Jill, if you go into that first room that you go into to find Barry, turn around and go outside, Wesker's like, I'm counting on you. You have to go back in there, I need you. If you run down the hall and run back and then run back out the door, you get another cutscene. Which then gives you the zombie coming out of the room. So you don't even need to go and deal with that zombie. Barry will shoot it and kill it.
Yep.
Which in the OG game, he headshots it. In this one, he doesn't.
Yeah.
The zombie
Yeah.
somehow gets up and escapes and runs out the room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
I always have to see Barry just like get into that stance
Yep.
where you're just like,
Bang! 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 It's like, come on.
he has to get into position too. That's how you know that's a good match.
It's a big gun.
He has to hold it. Look, if he shot that without being in position, he would have got blown across the room.
Wow.
Simple.
Listen, if Chris shot it, maybe he wouldn't have that problem, you know? Punching
Maybe.
boulders over you.
Exactly. And Bravo team leader Enrico Marini,
saw him.
who
We saw him
reveals,
once again.
I did see him once again. I said the same thing to you, didn't
who
I?
reveals that one of Alpha team members is a traitor before he being killed by an unseen shooter. Yeah, that whole section of the game just bugs me. I hate that whole section of the game. The whole boulder stuff, the twisting with the cranks. I hate that section of the game. It's in my opinion, it's one of the most boring sections on the entire game, and you don't really get anything from it. You get the whole section with the spiders, which I think is totally unnecessary. It just, to me, I'm just like, just keep me in the mansion and keep me in those areas. That's where this game is strongest. It's the Metroidvania. It's the being confused what doors what and making sure you got the right key for what. That whole area I hate.
And it kind of like that's why I think the reason why the mansion is so strong is because it alludes to its inspirations in games like Sweet Home and Alone in the Dark.
Yep.
Where those were very much like the mansion based horror. And I think like when they become this is a lab, this is a like it kind of
it loses
it. But...
It loses it a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. We've just said we see Enrico again. How pointless is it the fact that he's in this game? Did you need him?
Just
no. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the way to wrap that up, isn't it?
So, but think about how much more infuriating it is now to have Resident Evil 0 and have that line of you never saw him again.
Technically, though, Rebecca did never see him again.
I agree.
Right? Jill or Chris saw him, but Rebecca never saw him again.
That line just doesn't make sense entirely. It's just a funny line.
so Enrico leaves. So that we got to get this right, yeah. Enrico leaves the training facility.
Disappears
from the training facility.
We don't ever actually
so he avoids the tyrant, the first tyrant. He avoids the first ever tyrant, first of all. Then he makes his way out of the training facility before it all blows up. Makes his way to the mansion. Yeah. The training facility is now blown up. He's running through the mansion. He then makes it all the way through all the same traps we have to go through because these doors are not locked. Like, these doors are locked still.
Doors are not open. Unless he goes around with all the keys,
he's the one locking
them and drops them around places.
I'm just imagining Enrico just being like a Looney Tunes character where everything's like falling around him as he's walking. He's like,
I suppose the only other explanation is Wesker grabs him while he's in the training facility and then brings him to the mansion. But then why would he
plants him somewhere?
Just to put him in a hole.
Yeah, but why would he just puts him in a hole? Why not just kill him then? There's a few things here. I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I know it's a video game. Just enjoy it, but
I mean, just remember that this one was made first, right?
Yeah.
So if anything, it's Resident Evil Zero's fault for not tying up the ends or making the journey here more obvious.
But we never saw him again, Hayley. What else do you want?
I mean,
they tied it up perfectly. They needed that line.
That to me is like, guys, we're on a deadline. We don't have enough time for this. Let's just add in that line. Cool, Enrico's
perfect.
like...
Bravo Team survivor Rebecca Chambers joins Chris. The player character learns that a series of illegal experiments were undertaken by a clandestine. Thank you very much. Research team under the authority of the medical company Umbrella Corporation. The creatures roaming the mansion and its surrounding areas are the result of those experiments, which have exposed the mansion's personnel and animals to a highly contagious and mutated. Bro, that's madness. I'd have to sit there and sound that one out. It's like mutagen. Yeah, no, I ain't got time for that. I guess the word instead, all right? I guess the word instead. Mutagenic biological agent known as the T-virus. The player character discovers a secret underground laboratory containing Umbrella's experiments. There they find Jill or Chris in a cell. So did you guys, this is the moment, did you save Chris in your Jill run through, both of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then on your Chris run through, did you save Jill?
Yes.
I didn't save him.
In fact,
monster.
Like it didn't come up, and I'm like, yo, I saw Chris. Why are we leaving him? Let's go get Chris.
No,
like I actively was like, yeah, you have to go get him. I was like, oh, Chris isn't here.
That's the thing that not bugs me, but it's really, again, another thing that I like about the game, but then also dislike, is the fact of, like, yeah, you could just, what is the canon ending? Like, that's the only thing I have a problem with these little things where it's like, so, in my playthrough, because we haven't spoken about this part, which is the part where you are with, with Jill, and you're dealing with, what's her name? The monster thing that can't be killed. Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah, you're dealing with Lisa, right? So that moment Barry comes down. He tries to double cross you. You get the moment where it's take the gun or give him back the gun. So I give him back the gun. I'm like, all right, cool, Barry. I'm keeping you alive. I've decided you can come along for this journey with me. Let's do this, right? Barry dies. Barry gets knocked off the edge. Lisa murders Barry. In my playthrough.
What?
Right.
Even though Barry has a gun.
Barry has a magnum, so I run around pushing the boulders, obviously, to open the case. But
He was a
Barry
scrub.
stands on the edge and doesn't shoot enough bullets, clearly, to get her to go away, and she knocks him off the edge.
Wow.
So I got the
I've
ending.
never got that one.
So I've got the ending where Jill gets on the plane with Richard,
Mate,
the helicopter with Richard, and that's it.
we literally didn't have to fight anyone.
No, we'll get to the end.
No.
We'll get to the end. We'll get to the end. We'll get to the
Yeah.
end. We'll get to the end. We'll get to the end. But yeah, that is so Barry's dead in my world.
See,
That's
when you
so
was
weird.
playing the ending, I actually wrote a note on my phone, and I thought, do you think this is why they were in talks when they made Resident Evil 0, that not all characters would survive?
100%.
Because in this game, not all characters have to survive.
Yeah. But I think they also went, that was a dumb idea, and now our story makes no sense. Because the actual story ending is the one where you save Chris or Jill, and you get Barry come with you as well. Or
Well,
Rebecca.
you saved both of them.
So,
Jill
yeah.
and Chris would be the true ending, wouldn't it? Because they're in future Resident Evil games.
No, but I'm saying, like,
Okay.
vice or versa
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Without Chris, we don't get one of the best Resident Evil games, you know?
Code Veronica.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Good point. Good point. Good save.
I don't know. What
She
is
saved
it?
you. She saved you. She saved you. I will say I like the idea of Jill or Chris being in a cell. I just think there was plenty more room to be played with there, where it's like, who puts them in the cell? Why does, if it's Wesker, because that's what it's alluded to,
Yeah.
why did Wesker put him in a cell when he just tried to murder you? Like, he's going to try and murder you anyway? Like, what? Help me to understand why this happens, because it makes no sense.
Good
See,
point.
but that would be a perfect time for, like, if it was a case of Jill's events of the story and Chris's events for the story, for you to then go back and play and then get some answers for those questions.
Well, I think that, or the idea, think about if we broke the story up and it is just one story. It's Barry is the traitor along with Wesker. He doesn't want to do it because his family are being held hostage or whatever. Barry then puts Chris or Jill in the cell, which then makes more sense because he doesn't actually want to murder them, but he's been ordered to do something. Like,
I think
there's plenty of easy ways to retcon this, and they just don't.
I think that's the most annoying thing. Is like you can see where this could be just all a connected story, and it's not even attempted.
Yeah.
You know, and this was done like 6 years after, only 6 years after the original, and like at a time where like stuff like this wasn't really toyed around with too much out in like the mainstream of video games. But still, it would be nice, you know.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice. Like, yeah, I didn't bother saving them though. I didn't have time for that. You know, I had
We're on a time crunch.
I had a podcast.
You got a speed run to
record.
finish.
I had a podcast to record. I was too busy. Like, come on. Well, come on. There, Jill and Chris are in a cell and encounters Wesker's programming and a tyrant. A humanoid bioweapon, Wesker reveals that he's a double agent working for Umbrella and plans to use the tyrant to kill the STARS members. So we know that is the whole plan for the whole entire game, which is he is luring these characters to fight the tyrant to see how powerful the tyrant actually is. But I just don't think there's that payoff in the game. And again, there's too many open endings. So I fought the tyrant in the lab in my playthrough, my speedrun playthrough, right? Which means I fought the tyrant once. I didn't fight the tyrant ever again. So I killed the tyrant, this almighty being, with 15 bullets, I think it was. Or something like that.
Pistol.
And those are the little things in the story you gotta fix, man. You have to fix those things, right?
I kind of want to take this moment to get into our favorite segment, that is quotes in the notes. So right here, and there's so many quotes that Wesker says depending on what you do.
Yes.
There's a one point where he says premature, and then like in a very weird way.
What? Premature.
My favorite is when he says Jill and Barry in hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just so dumb. It is so dumb, but such a Wesker line.
The other line that disappoints
really
me
fun.
so much in this, because it's so good in the original, is the Jill sandwich line. We've gone through this whole conversation and we've not even spoke about a Jill sandwich because it's so weak in this.
Yep.
That is one of the only lines that needs to be just picked out of the OG game and plopped into this. Oh, Jill, you was almost a Jill sandwich. That's it. That's all you needed. But instead, it's worded all differently and horrible.
I think you would fit in between a sandwich if you were. It's just real
like,
dumb.
Is now a good time to say that I completely missed that scene as well?
Oh,
because I found the broken shotgun first. So I never had that scene.
Oh, you never?
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but, so that doesn't always even happen. Like,
yeah.
So there are sometimes he just won't turn up to save you.
Yeah, you just die.
And it'll just come down, you're dead. I've had that happen. Whether it was a glitch or something, maybe, or especially if maybe I'm remembering the OG game as well, where like sometimes he just won't show up, Barry, to save you.
Imagine. That's the thing that doesn't really make sense. It's like, oh, I'm gonna save you here. I guess it kind of makes sense because then it's like, oh, hey, I'm a trustworthy person early on.
But who cares if you're trustworthy? Like Wesker wants you dead anyway. It's that weird thing of like he wants somebody to test this tyrant, but he also just tried to shoot me before even the tyrant come out. In Chris's playthrough, Rebecca gets shot. Like, it's just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Wesker doesn't even question Rebecca in the whole game when she's there. Like, this girl's just come over from, we don't know who she is. She's just turned up, she saved Richard, blah, blah, blah. She's played the piano. Like, she's just kind of, badly, then better. You know, she gets there.
She learned the Moonlight Sonata quick.
So we had this conversation. Yeah?
Yeah.
I am of the mind that the way she says, oh, that's the Moonlight Sonata, right? Then she already knows it. Like, so she's just like, oh, let me just remind myself. I already know this. Where like in Zero, it's a total song that she just doesn't know it. It's not a song she's even familiar with.
Maybe she can't read music.
Like,
see, maybe she's just learnt like where
exactly.
the notes
So
are
she's
and
just
it-
practicing. Let her practice, yes, and then she goes on within her day. You know, so it's look again.
And then she's a concert pianist at the end of it.
No, she's still she still messes up a little bit. She still messes.
I just want the theater orchestra experience where they're like, you have Chris, you have Jill, you have everybody just on pianos, and it's just dueling.
Billy makes his triumphant return.
Billy makes a return.
Imagine. One day.
Imagine.
Someone must have made that YouTube video, surely.
Oh, 100%.
Where am I? Double agent for working for Umbrella plans to use it to kill the Stars members. In ensuring confrontation. Thank you very much. Wesker is apparently killed, and the playable character defeats the tyrant. So Wesker gets stabbed up by the tyrant.
Yeah, this is another one of those moments where it's like, there is obviously, after playing future games, there is obviously a canonical ending.
Yeah.
Because in Jill's, after that fight, he disappears.
He just
in Chris's, he's a shish kebab.
Yep.
He's just like, he's skewered in half.
That's the thing. That's the thing that's always got me, playing the old, like, obviously this kind of is going to happen with any series, but like starting where I did.
Yeah.
It's like,
which remind the people, when did you start?
Obviously. 5. So I started at 5. Well, technically I started at 4, but I really started at 5.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm like, I always know that he is who he is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see like this kind of pulled back Wesker, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would also say like how like dense Jill and Chris, because there are multiple hints that Wesker is part of Umbrella before they walk into that room, and then they're walking like, really, what? There's literally one of the things that you pick up is a photo of him in his sunglasses.
It's so bad too. It's so bad because you can definitely tell they're just like, all right, let's take the character model and put it over this person's face.
Yeah.
It's so bad looking.
I like all that backstory though for Wesker.
Yeah,
like
same.
That's the thing. I like it, but it's like it didn't make sense as a playable character reading that and then being shocked when you walk into the room. It's like,
well, Chris isn't really shocked. Chris sort of walks in and is just like, Wesker, you, where Jill's
it's like,
very
you
much like,
son of a bitch.
yeah, where Jill is very much like, Wesker, what? That's what I mean. Like, I feel like they just
She's
did
very
Jill.
ditzy.
I feel like they did Jill dirty in this game again. Like, Jill.
Is this where we
Jill never
learn
gets her
that
love.
Jill just straight up cannot read?
I mean, she's dyslexic. Leave her
Well,
alone,
yeah.
all right? Leave her alone.
Yeah.
She tries.
I mean,
She's
I'm
like me.
not judging. She tries.
They do mention Birkin in a couple of files still, though, which is quite nice,
Mm-hmm.
considering you don't actually see him in this game. So it kind
Yeah.
of ties the story together. He's not just forgotten about.
Do they do that in the original? Just because, like, do they allude to Birkin ever being?
I don't remember. I'll be honest with you.
Because that's something that
Yeah.
they do in the remakes real well. It's like, especially like because you can update games now, you know, like where they went back and were like, this is what we're gonna
Yeah.
allude to this in 2 remake, you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Did you see did you get the one allusion to Ada?
No.
Yes, John and
Go on.
Ada.
Oh, the John. Oh, that the password, John.
Yeah,
Ada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There's
whatever.
I was looking at fan games just out of curiosity, and of course being absorbed in Resident Evil as of now. And like there's a fan game where you play as Ada like escaping, and it's like really interesting to watch. You know, like people like kind of form her backstory through this.
But it's annoying because Resident Evil has made so many shit games that it frustrates me the fact that we never got that. Like, why isn't there a Resident Evil Ada? Like, which again, maybe we live in a different time now where it would actually work. Where like, imagine like Capcom went to Xbox and like, yo, we're gonna give you an original Resident Evil story, Resident Evil Ada for Game Pass. It's a 2-hour experience, and like you said, I'm obviously super entrenched in it anyway, but there's like mods out there for different character stories that have been built and stuff like that. It's just like Capcom needs to do those. Like, you don't need to put the Resident Evil 3 team on there because they didn't make the best game, the remake 3. They didn't make the best game anyway, in my opinion, which we'll get to. Spoilers. But yeah, like they can make a good enough game for like a 3-4 hour experience, and just it would be so good. It would be so good. But
Yeah.
last paragraph here. After reactivating the lab self-destruction system, the player character reaches the heli port and contacts Brad for extraction. The ending changes depending on the player's actions at key points. In the best ending, that's what they call it, the best ending.
Biased.
The surviving team members escape by helicopter after defeating the tyrant again. In the worst ending, the mansion remains intact, and the player character is the sole survivor. So that's what I got.
Yeah, the mansion didn't even blow up.
No,
We didn't have to.
they do a
that's
self-destruct.
true.
We didn't have to self-destruct.
Does that
anything.
mansion still standing in my playthrough? Still there.
Yep.
Still there.
Nope.
So
No.
if you did want
Smithereens
to see
in
Enrico
mine.
again, you know where to find him.
Enrico, well, it's dead bodies in a cave.
Yeah.
Just saying.
If you just wanted to look at him, you know.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
saw-
saw him again at least. Yeah.
The facts I could find for this one were really hard because they were mainly OG facts. So I've got a couple, but here it is. They're very loose.
Before we get into the
Yeah.
facts, just one thing, like random fireworks on a helipad. Why?
Yeah.
I mean,
Why not?
Like
yeah, they're not fireworks.
at the
They're not
door.
Fireworks. They're
Well,
not
no,
fireworks.
yeah. The
It kind
flares.
of makes
Yeah.
sense in the context that it's like not. It's a front for like a lab rather
Yeah.
than it being, you know, the mansion.
There's enough space on that place to land a helicopter. So in my
Yeah.
brain, I am alluded to the fact of like, oh, helicopters come in here, and this is the
Yeah.
back entrance for just Wesker and other people. And yeah, no, I get what you mean in terms of like its placement and stuff. Like it's just like at the door,
Like
which
there.
but it's the
Yeah.
same thing you can say about the core battery at the end, which is, oh, there's no battery. Run
That-
back on yourself. Oh, there's a
Yeah,
battery there.
yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
That makes sense. That makes sense to me because I think obviously all of that was gearing up to you having one space in your slot
Of course.
for the
then-
actual ending
Why
where
not just
obviously
put
you
no
put this.
battery? Why just let the lift work?
Well, no, it's the battery. Like again, the battery was so that you'd have space for the rocket launcher at the end.
Yeah, but
like,
yeah, okay, I see
Yeah.
that. I see what you're saying, which is like, okay, you have to pick up this thing to shoot this, and so then
Mm-hmm.
maybe, yeah, no, okay, I will.
He'll allow it. He'll allow
I'll
it.
step back and allow it. You've made perfect sense there,
That
and I'll allow
that
it.
was it was convoluted, but it's actually
It
good
makes
game
sense.
design.
It is actually
yeah.
good game design. You're right. Now that I think about it, you're 100% right, because you need to let the player know
It happens.
you
That you need a slot.
You need a
Yeah.
slot.
But we got to the heliport and we'd seen the
Yeah,
flares,
you
didn't we? And you were saying, "Oh, they dropped the rocket launcher for us on easy. Like we didn't even have to fight the tyrant."
Oh yeah, I
And then
forgot
it's
what it looked like. I forgot what it looked
Yeah,
like.
and then it's like, "Oh wait, no,
That's
now
it.
that's the helicopter. Wait, we're getting in the helicopter. Where's everyone else?" Like it was like a case of like, "Oh okay."
Yeah, Barry dead. Everyone dead. I'm sorry. I didn't
Well,
mean
Chris is still alive because the mansion is still about. You see, he's just stuck in a.
Yeah, he's
just stuck in a cell.
I see.
That's very
Although he's
true.
not again because setting off the self-destruct. Did it actually
No,
set off
there's
the
no
self-destruct?
Never
self-destruct.
set
Oh.
self-destruct.
All right, then he's locked in there.
But
He
Rebecca
dies
might
in like
find him, not that
2
we
to
know
3
that
weeks.
Rebecca exists, but you know,
Yeah, I mean, how long can you go without food?
a while.
Like a couple of weeks.
And
I think it's
water?
water that you struggle with. Yeah, no water. He'd die in like a couple of days.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. Did you know facts? Number one, this is literally what I've gotten from a website, which is the game's name needed a new name when it came to the US. Although director Shinji Mikami and Capcom crew just released it as Biohazard in Japan, the original 1996 game needed a new name before landing in American stores, partly because it'd be hard to trademark the term biohazard. I actually did a little bit more research on that. There's actually like a legal thing behind it as well, that they couldn't actually trademark biohazard in America, which is really interesting. I'm going to skip that one because the game defines survival horror. This, like, the 1966 game was obviously what coined the term of survival horror, which we all know. This was an interesting one that I didn't know, which is Resident Evil was given the world record for worst game dialogue ever. Yep, the laughable lines, "Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you're the master of unlocking. Take it with you." It's no wonder the original Resident Evil was recognized for its corny B-movie script in the 2008 Guinness World Record Gamers Edition. The Shining was a big influence for Resident Evil. Eerily, thank you. Quiet Mansion in Resident Evil was influenced by Stephen King's similarly haunted setting, The Shining, and the Overlook Hotel. Another hat tip to the horror classic can be found in Resident Evil 2, which we won't go into. Jill has a hidden scene, which we already spoke about with you, Despawn, which is obviously you can go out the room and come back. And there were several gruesome messages removed from the original Resident Evil game. A trial of Resident Evil included messages written in blood on the walls, presumably to flesh out backstory of the mansion's zombified residents, which I think would have been dope. Like, they took that out, which is... I don't hate them for taking it out, but
especially
it would
with
have been...
some of the diary entries that you get from people who were working in the lab that had no idea that they were going to be able to be mutating into these things.
Yep.
You know, it would be really cool to, like, where you had found that zombie to have, like, a half-written memo on the floor, a half-written diary entry, and then the rest just written out on blood on the wall. Like,
Yeah. No, I agree.
would have been cool.
I agree. Anything to add, boys, before we move on to ranking our favourite character?
One thing I wanted to touch upon that I forgot to hit. What's your guys' least favorite puzzle? And I think it's probably the same as mine.
Oh, perfect. Oh... Least favourite puzzle?
Do you want me to say mine?
Yeah, say yours, and I'll have a think.
The
I'll just say
the box emblem puzzle.
Oh, no, that's not
Yeah.
that hard.
I hate it though. It's just so dumb.
That's
the
not
one that
hard.
got me and I found pointless was the shark tank one, where
That
you basically
one,
just have to run around in a circle in a room pressing buttons. I was like, cool.
Got ya.
What about when you
That
have
did-
to electrocute
did
the
not-
shark?
That one's it's just before it where you had to
Yeah.
release all the water.
Did you get that one straight away, though? Because I remember even when I first played, I was like, what am I meant to do? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like...
I did it first time, but it was a couple of like, which button do I press? I didn't
Right.
realize there was a button behind the ladder as well.
Yeah.
For a bit, and then
Yeah.
it took me a second of clicking around to find it. But yeah, it was just like it's one of those things. Like It didn't need to be that convoluted of just running around the switches in the same room.
The worst puzzle in this game for me is probably the clock puzzle, which is because I just get the hands mixed up, the long hand and the short hand.
Yeah.
So for me, that one, I'm just like, oh crap, I forgot what hand.
That's a similar thing for me with the emblem puzzle, because it's just like, all right, what I know this has to fit somewhere here, but like it doesn't. This is not supposed to fit like this, or this is not supposed to
and
fit
you have
like
to move
that.
it right over to the edges, and then
I
bring
hate
it all
it's
in.
so tedious.
Don't worry, we're getting into the games where the puzzles have become real easy, so you'll be fine.
Right.
Favorite characters, guys. If you had to pick one favorite character from this game to take into our grand final in 7 weeks time or whatever it is, for people who didn't see last week's episode, I say last week's episode, the last episode I'll say, because who knows when these go out, sitting at number 1 right now is Rebecca Chambers. Our favorite weapon I should say, sorry, is the Magnum, and our favorite location is currently the train. So we'll go with character first. Favorite character Despawn of this game, who?
I mean, I want to say Albert.
Okay.
I think Wesker. There's a couple of bits. I don't know if it's just because obviously with the updated graphics and stuff, they could do something a little bit quick. You can see in those little cutscenes, like there's bits where he's in the hallway shooting just after you get the V-Jolt.
Yeah.
With Jill. And you see like the little sly smiles that he does every now and again.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a really good job of telling the story of like, if you watch out for the cues, you can really tell he's actually a bad guy. And I think, that whole idea of it building up to obviously him wanting to use the STARS members to test his new weapon was really clever. So yeah, for me, it was definitely Wesker.
Shotgun?
Yeah, slowly in this game, I feel like there's not like I obviously like I have favorite characters that because of other games, but in this game, like there's not really one that really sticks out for me. I think Wesker definitely sticks out. I do enjoy Barry just as a side character. So part of me is like compelled to say Barry, but like he also is like in this game. But yeah, I agree with Despawn in the fact that I think Wesker does like kind of orchestrate things the best and kind of has the most character. In terms of he's a villain, but like he's a good villain. Like he's good at he's trying to manipulate everybody at every turn. Yeah. I also love like the house, like the Lisa Trevor story, how sad it is, and like I don't know if I consider her a character, but I think like as a character, that would be probably my favorite in terms of just how deep the story is and how heartbreaking it is, you know, when you're seeing the files with all that family. And that's so
I think the game did a really good way of telling that story, like what is technically an added story into this remake. They did a really good way of kind of like gelling it into the original story. It could be one that's just like if you skip over all the book, like the notes and stuff,
it's confusing.
It's just
another if you do that.
But technically it's just another mutated zombie. But then as you read into it and like you actually get the like they say the heartbreaking backstory behind it all, it kind of fleshes out a lot better.
Fair enough. So Shotgun, you going with Wesker?
Yeah, I think so.
Hayley, favorite character?
I kind of agree with Nick, to be honest, that there's not really one that stands out for me. I feel like I'm leaning towards Chris, but I feel like that's only because I'm leaning towards what you get with his playthrough rather than what you get from him. But I guess in terms of like dialogue and that, I feel like you do gain more from Chris than any of the others, so I'd probably say him just for that reason, but it's a really weak reason.
I 100% agree with you. Chris is my favorite as well, only because I agree with you. I think its story makes the most sense. And the moments that you do actually get with Rebecca are actually kind of cool moments as well. And they build upon not only Rebecca's character, but Chris's as well. And knowing where the story goes and obviously I know Chris because I've spent my entire life looking up to this damn stupid man who punches boulders. But like knowing like about...
Not yet.
Not yet,
Who
but
will
like,
one day punch boulders.
but you do
Yes.
kind of, as much as I don't think the game does a great job, it does a terrible job actually with Jill, if I'm being honest with you. With Chris, you do see the care inside of him in terms of when Richards is about, he's been bitten by the snake. I think you see him like with Rebecca, where she's like, oh, do you want to help? Do you want me to sort your wounds? And he's like, no, I'm fine, but don't worry. If I need somebody, I've got you, like sort of
yeah,
thing.
and like, do you have a
He's-
gun before he leaves and stuff
Exactly.
like
Do you have a gun? Also, something we didn't pick up on as well, which like Rebecca doesn't have a gun at one point and gets hunted down by a hunter. Like, doesn't have a gun. She's just come out of a mansion where a training facility where she almost died and she had rocket launchers, she had pistols, she had everything, but a hunter comes about and she's like, I ain't got my pesky gun with me no more. I'm sorry, I threw them all away. But Billy took them all. I'm sorry. Which I guess technically he could have. Technically.
Yeah. I mean, she gets the dog tags, he gets the guns.
Exactly.
Fair trade-off.
Exactly. I'm gonna go Chris as well, which means where me and Despawn are about to play rock paper scissors, and whoever wins
Okay.
this character is gonna go where it needs to go. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Rock paper scissors. Yeah, Chris wins. Shotgun, I will face
enough.
you just because it seems fair.
I mean,
Ready?
okay.
Rock paper
Resident
scissors.
Evil remake.
Damn it,
Oh, it's a split.
Haley.
I mean, okay.
Play
I mean, I'm
shotgun.
gonna.
Here we go.
Okay,
Here we go. Here we go. This is for all the marbles.
Okay.
Rock,
Ready?
paper, scissors.
Paper, scissors.
Oh, rock,
Ready?
paper, scissors.
Paper, scissors.
Yeah! Chris is. Chris gets gets in there.
Yeah,
So
I
would
was gonna change my answer anyways.
to Chris.
Imagine he wins. He's actually, you know what?
Do you know what? The one thing I think we've kind of not spoken about enough is kind of the enemy types in this game. So I guess we should talk about them a little bit. Which is obviously you've got basic zombies and you've got the Crimson Heads. I like the Crimson Heads in this game. I think it's a neat addition because there is a way to kill them forever and then not ever show
I was gonna
up.
say, did anyone actually light them?
Yeah, did anyone use the gas and light them?
No.
No, me either.
Yeah,
used it.
yes,
Oh, you
I
did?
did. And a couple places where I'm like, I know I'm gonna come back here, like the hallway. Speaking of coming back here, I just want to point out that doorknob bit I fucking hate. I hate it so much. Why is it there? It doesn't build tension. It's just an annoying thing where now I have to go all the way around.
I mean, if
Because
you're
for
good
your
at the
next
game,
playthrough, you'll keep that in mind.
if you're good at the game, you don't use that door as much. That's why.
Same with the Crimson Heads. You
Yeah.
then would the next time you play it, you'll keep certain zombies alive so they don't become the Crimson Heads.
Right. Yeah.
She knows. She
Yeah.
knows. She knows exactly. That's why you're a superstar at
Thank
it.
you, thank you.
I respect it. I respect it. I don't really have too many. I don't have like a favorite. I do think the character designs, the enemy types in this game are actually pretty good though. And again, like we said from Zero, it makes sense why they're here. It's not like a ridiculous, outlandish, dumb thing that there are crows and snakes and sharks and frogs, I guess, and spiders. Like it actually does make a little bit of sense. Obviously, there's bees as well, and the chimera, I guess, which are like the little bug
Oh, I hate
creature
those
things.
things.
I hate those. They're
Yeah.
horrible. Like
I
go
Sorry,
on.
go on.
No,
I feel like
please.
it shows the evolution from Zero, right? So if you're thinking about like the mansion that Rebecca has just escaped,
Do you mean the training facility?
yeah, the training
Yeah.
facility. It shows like, oh, most of those enemy types were based on animals, right? And they've taken what they've learned from that training facility to this lab,
To the
and they're
mansion,
still, they're still testing on some animals, but you can see where they're developing on other things as well as. So I feel like it kind of shows the evolution of, you know, the virus and the
What
mutation and that.
Yeah.
And it can show, like, especially with the I don't know what the name of the bug creatures are you just said.
The chimeras.
The
Chimeras.
Yeah.
It kind of shows like they might have been experimenting with the DNA of both insects and humans because they're
Yep.
they're very humanoid looking, and that's it's like adds the sinister vibe of Umbrella that is just so well done throughout the series of the like just Umbrella as a character in these games is so overt, and it's like, oh shit, like this is what they're doing now. This is what they're up to now, you know.
Yeah.
No one's safe. No
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
No one and nothing. Like nothing's off limits to them. Nothing. You've got you've got a fountain plant that you have to kill that can kill. That thing can kill you, straight up kill you. It's like no, they're testing on everything that they can get their hands on, and they're going to find what the perfect BOW is, no matter what it is.
If you're anywhere in the vicinity, no matter whether you're human, animal, insect, like
Plant.
plant, you're being tested on.
You're getting tested. Yeah. Yeah. I think for me though, like if we're talking about like our favorite like enemy type, I think it's going back to the earlier conversation about character. I think for me it'd be Lisa, just because if we can't put her as a character, you have to put her as an enemy. And I think
Definitely.
the story that they told with that enemy, I think was one of the best in the game.
100%. I think it's one of the best. Like, it's not a she's not a tyrant, but she definitely fills that role here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
where it's like the Mr. T, not the Mr. T.
Not quite. I get what you're going for, Mr. X.
A pitiful.
I like the idea of it being Mr. T.
Like, well, that kind of aspect, but she's like actually got like some sort of story. You know, and I think that she is one of the most interesting enemies in any Resident Evil game.
I think that's where Resident Evil starts getting better for me, which is in 2 and a few of the other games. Like, you do start getting a story for these enemies and what they've been through and why they are the way they are, and it's not just a case of it is on the surface it is just a case of they're dumb zombies, but when you start looking at some of the characters, if we like really did sit down and like think about it, like the Tyrant is obviously a man-made machine. That's what he is. That's why he's been built the way he is. But then, like you said, Lisa Trevor, and then in the previous game, obviously you had who do we fight in the end? Marcus ends up obviously he's the creator of the slug, and that's the enemy there, right? And then going forward with the other characters that we'll get to, you see the story being built out and why they are the way they are, and I think that's like some of their most powerful moments. Like, I don't think it's a great fight in the end, unfortunately, and they could have done a lot more with it, but Plant 42, for me, I'm like, oh, that's actually really interesting. Again, like we said, it's the evolution of the fountain plant, and then you keep going like, oh crap, they kind of did learn some things, and that's why this thing's living here, and now we've got to deal with that. And
question for you guys, just to go back to the plant fight,
please.
Did you go back and destroy it before going into the main fight?
Did I go back and destroy it before going into the main
So
fight?
you obviously in Jill's playthrough you can make the V-jolt.
Yeah.
You can. There is a point you can take that and go back and actually destroy the roots.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't do it. I'm too busy running, mate.
Yeah.
Nope. So you were in the other room. You were in the room where you make the thing, right? Oh yeah.
So if you make it up,
time for all that.
yeah. For those who don't know, if you make that up, I think you get there's a note that tells you how to make it.
Yeah.
And if you take it back to the aqua ring where the sharks were, there's a room in there that you can then use that on the roots, which will make that the fight with Plant 42 like super easy.
Yeah.
You pretty much don't have to fight him. You just walk in and then Barry saves you.
Barry. So we've got Chris as our favourite character.
Lisa's our favourite enemy.
Lisa, our favourite enemy, even though we weren't really doing enemies, but she's there anyway. And then now we have location.
Special.
I think this is going to be a landslide personally, because I think it's very obvious. But to go through, you have the mansion, you have the courtyard, you have the ground, the guardhouse residence, you have the altar, and you have the underground laboratory. They're kind of the key areas of this game. Obviously, my vote is the mansion. I think it's the most well-designed area that you play in. I think it's the most well-designed Resident Evil area you play in, period. I don't think they got very close with the next game, but I still don't think it's as good as the mansion. What's your favourite area?
I think it's got to be the mansion as well, right? The same way that we said that our favourite location for Zero was the train because it was so iconic to that game. I feel like the mansion is definitely the most iconic location for this game. But also, you know, when we were recording the last episode, we spoke about all the detail that went into designing the train, and I feel like you see the same amount of detail in the mansion as well. It's not just, you know, one colour wall, this type of wood. Like, it's all the carvings in the wood, it's the carpet,
it's the painting room, it's the dining room, it's the little paint, the room where all the paintings are hidden. There's the ornament that's got the map in it. It's a character in itself, I feel like. What about you, Nick? What's your favourite?
I 100% agree. The mansion, there's definitely times, and looking to the fact that you said earlier, there's definitely times where it does feel like the Shining Mansion, where I get turned, even though I know this map, I get turned around, and I'm like, oh wait, what's this? There's that. Like, with it being a mansion, it's not just the mansion. It's like you got kind of like the different points of the mansion, and it's like it's easy to kind of get turned around. Even though you're like, okay, this is there, that's there, like, wait, is this there? So I think it's 100% iconic. So
yeah, Despawn.
You're all wrong. It's obviously the courtyard, isn't it? No, yeah, it's the mansion. I mean, as you guys have said, like, it's iconic for this game. I think, in my eyes, it's iconic for the series. 100%. It's like if you mention Resident Evil, they always go, "Oh, is that the one in the mansion?"
Yeah.
Or is that the one in the police station? It's always one or the other. It's like for this game, I think the mansion is truly iconic. I think, again, as you guys have said, like the attention to detail that they've put into the areas within the mansion is just second to none. Like some of the other areas, like the altar area and things like that, and the underground facilities, like they do come across as a bit bland in comparison when you think about all of the the lighting textures, all of, like you say, all of the paintings, the different rooms having different elements to them. And it's like just the amount of detail that's gone into that mansion is amazing. And that's obviously, as I say, with it being the most I think one of the most iconic in the entire series at this point. I don't think you can beat it.
Fair enough. Last decision, which is what was our favourite weapon of the game. Obviously, there's guns that you probably wouldn't even have seen. Like some of the guns you don't even unlock until multiple playthroughs and stuff like that. My favourite gun in this is probably... it's a hard one. Mine's probably a stupid one, but I actually think I'm going to go with a dagger, because I actually really enjoy the new mechanic of, like... It's kind of like a second chance mechanic, Which is like you get grabbed, it's like boom, secondary, bam, you're done out of here. Which at the time I thought was dumb, but then it makes sense because you would have that just like grab a knife. It would be a knife, it wouldn't be a dagger, but grab a knife and like boom, stab him in the neck, and that it adds to that realism of like, if something grabs you, you are gonna use a taser on it. What if you can get your hands on it that very second, right?
I really hate you.
Why'd you hate me?
Because I was sitting there thinking, oh yeah, you're gonna all choose proper guns, whatever. My favourite is the stun gun for that exact same reason.
100%.
That exact same reason.
I totally understand it. I think you're 100% right. It adds to the world. It adds to the game. It adds to the story. It adds. It's not just about blowing things up all the time. Like when I play these games for escapism, obviously, but when you can add a weapon that is so easygoing and so, like, you don't think about it, it's not that constant thing of, like, ammo. It's like, you see a dagger, you're like, grab it, quick, and then we keep moving. I just love that about it, personally.
It's the survival horror, like, element of it, though, isn't it? It's a case of, I don't have any more ammo, what am I going to do? Oh, here we go, here's a knife, let's go, type thing.
No, exactly.
But, yeah.
Shotgun, what would be your favourite?
I'm kind of inclined to agree with that. I mean, I love Barry's Magnum. It's just iconic. Yes. I love that. I love, even though I don't believe this started in Remake, but the Samurai Edge. I feel like that's just iconic in every Resident Evil game to me. Like just seeing that gun is just brings me those butterflies. This one's a tough one. I'm gonna go the stun gun as well with Hayley, because I think like that adds like it's one thing with the dagger, but it adds that little extra flair.
I know, I kind of thought that as well. I like electrocuting them.
Fair enough. Despawn, what about yourself?
You were all so close yet so wrong. The best weapon in this game is the flash grenade.
Okay.
Because of that survival element, it's that, what do you do when you're being attacked and you've got no weapons and no ammo? On the flip side of that, it blows their heads up and it's amazing.
Yes.
So you get the gore, you also get the survival elements that you guys are all loving. For me, it's
We've
just
all gone
the flash grenade was just so
such a
much fun.
different way to what I thought we would.
None of us actually chose a weapon. They've just chose a
because
survival.
A self-defense
pickups.
weapon. There's still weapons. There's still
Which
weapons.
shows the game as a survival horror game, right? Rather than just like an action game.
It's not an action game, and that's the whole point, right? That's why
Yeah.
I think you go back and play it. I think that's why you like it. I think that's why it can play out in different ways. And yeah, I agree with you in terms of like the Magnum's iconic, and obviously the Samurai Edge is also very iconic. But I just thought adding this mechanic is definitely different and unique enough that I liked it. But
There were so many
stun
times.
gun as one. Sorry.
Yeah, there are so many times you forgot you had either a dagger or a
Yeah,
stun gun.
and then it happens.
You're
That
like,
moment
oh,
happens. You're like,
crap!
thank
Oh, wait,
God.
yeah, good.
Thank you. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Saves you in a pinch.
It definitely does. Yep. It definitely does. Well, all there is to do now, guys, is to decide one important thing, which is Resident Evil 0 still our number one Resident Evil game after playing Resident Evil 1? Despawn, where would you rank the two games? In which order?
I think we've got a new leader in my eyes. I think
Okay.
Resident Evil 1 is number one.
And why?
Because it is technically the game that started it all. And I think it's everything that Zero did to kind of show homage to the original Resident Evil. This one basically just shined it up and made it real nice. And I think, yeah, just the story is good in most parts. I think it stands up a lot better than Zero. I think Zero had a lot more. There are some cheesy lines in this, but I think there were some proper cheesy sections in Zero.
100%.
And yeah, and again, I was going back to the favorite locations. Like, you play a game in something as iconic as the mansion. I think that area alone makes this game better than a lot in the series. And yeah, there's the survival horror elements are here now properly. And it is what makes this series stand out in like modern gaming. I think it's what gave this game its identity.
Yeah.
Or what gave this series its identity. And I think, yeah, for that alone, I think Resident Evil 1 will always be like top of the two for me.
Fair enough. Nick?
I definitely this is one of those things where, man, Resident Evil 1 remake is like far and away the better game. But I think like now getting the experience of Zero, it's nice to have the idea of the zapping mechanic and the leaving stuff behind mechanic. And I think in tandem, these games kind of complement themselves more than they hinder each other, which is something that I didn't think was going to happen because I've always heard just middling things about Zero.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. This is far and away. It's iconic. It's it does so much to further the genre and make the genre mainstream with all of its influences of, you know, just movies and books like The Shining and games like Alone in the Dark and Sweet Home, and kind of having that homage to survival horror and really bringing it all full circle. And I think it's definitely deserving of that number one.
Hayley, finish us off. You decide. You have the deciding factor right now.
I have my decision and I have my reason, and it's quite simple. It's got to be Resident Evil 1 because we saw Enrico again.
Yay.
There you go.
Resident Evil 1 is obviously the winner, and it's my winner too. It's a remarkable game. I think it's definitely in the top 5 of all survival horror games of all time, in my opinion. There are enough reasons to want to replay it. There are enough reasons to want to experience it multiple times. Playing it on easy gives you a different outcome to playing it on normal, which gives you a different outcome to playing on hard. There's enough left open for interpretation, but there's also enough closed-endedness that this could be it. Like, this could have ended and that could have been it. Like, you wouldn't be upset if this was the only Resident Evil game ever created. You'd be like, what a classic game. Like, these American superheroes, they become superheroes, but these American policemen and women go into a haunted mansion, and this is the outcome of what happens when bad people are playing with dodgy viruses. And yeah, I love it. I love this game. I think it's amazing. And yeah, I'm happy that it is number one. Now, will it stay there next time? who knows? Next time on Resident Evil Revisited, we play Resident Evil 2. And I cannot wait to rank them. But let's plug, and get ourselves out of here. Despawn, we've got to plug this week, dude.
Just me, always me. Social-wise, always find me on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Paul Despawn. Or mainly you can find me every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday over on twitch.tv/Despawn Games.
Fair enough. Shotgun.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Shotgunmcpayne. That's spelled like Max Payne. Of course, I do some lovely editing for this little channel. I don't know if you know, it's called MC Fixer and more MC Fixer. And let me tell you, we've got some stuff in the works, especially this guy right here being an Outriders ambassador. Go play Outriders when it comes out, probably already out by the time you listen to this recording. And go get that man some respect. Go say he's the one who made me get it on Game Pass, even if you maybe not.
Don't worry about that.
But anyways, I think I just did something. It Takes Two. Go watch that, and of course, you follow me on the socials.
Find me on the socials, indeed. You can find me everywhere at MC Fixer. Hayley, where can people find you?
On Twitter at the Hayley Show 21.
Perfect. Thank you all for watching again. The engagement was good last episode. Let's make it even better this one. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. And until next time, we will love you, leave you, and see you all later. Goodbyes.